Financial stuff, I think some people at earlier stages think there's critical illness payments that will pay out. I didn't have that. When I was diagnosed stage 4, I firstly was told I'd only got months left to live. I'll point out this is in 2013, so that wasn't right. I'm not sort of hanging on here at the moment. But the financial stuff was really important to me because I needed to know that my family would be okay and that I wanted them to be more than okay. I wanted to know that there was sort of extra finances in case they needed it, in case my husband couldn't carry on working because, you know, the obvious. So I did have a mortgage. Alongside that, I must have had some lovely mortgage life insurance thing because that did pay out and paid off my mortgage and gave some extra, which I then put into a fund for my children, which has been my sort of number one priority. I also, and I don't even quite know how I managed to do this, other than the fact that I must have had very nice financial advisors, had got another thing set up that again paid out on a stage 4 diagnosis, which gave me either a lump sum or money each month, which has financed us going on some very nice holidays over the last nearly 6 years, which kind of seemed quite important when life was very short.
So that was some kind of like critical illness cover?
Yeah, it wasn't critical illness, it was something else, because critical illness I know will pay out earlier. Whatever this policy is would only pay out when I was threatening to not make it to that Christmas.
Okay. It's unusual wording for a financial policy, but...
Yes, I know, it's very specific.
Okay, just that Christmas. Yeah. Okay, so what about things like the PIP allowance, and how does that differ from things like DS 1500?
This is a bit of a minefield, and I am definitely not an expert. Again, when I was first diagnosed, immunotherapy wasn't approved. It was only available on trial, and I did sign up to a trial, but I had been told by my oncologist I'd got months, not years. So I bypassed all the horrible forms and was allowed a DS 1500 because I was told I had less than 6 months to live. So that gave me 3 years worth of PIP payments, and then I discovered about a year later I could also have employment support allowance as well. That all, I know it's changed because actually the joy is that melanoma stage 4 is not such a, it's not quite the same life sentence that it was then, and because people are living longer with it, the DS 1500 is now less relevant. It's really, really difficult to get the PIP payments. It's difficult to get all of it. And I really struggled because I was assigned a palliative care nurse who discharged me like a year later, which was, again, quite comical. It was quite nice to be discharged by a palliative care nurse. And she filled all the stuff in for me. I got all my letters through saying I'd got the full rate of PIP and the full rate of PIP. I looked through the thing, and this was a letter that said that I couldn't walk more than 20 metres. One of the slightly random things I'd done 4 days after my diagnosis was I walked a marathon because I'd signed up for it months before. And so I called the nurse back and just said, but I walked 26 miles, this is ridiculous. Please call them back and explain. And she called them back and they basically said, yeah, the system doesn't work, you do qualify. As I said, it has all changed. It's nearly 6 years ago. It's a minefield. Some GPs are kinder about it than others. Most oncologists wouldn't sign off that form. But you, in theory, can do it through the other route. It's just lots and lots of forms. And it's talking about how you feel on your absolute worst day, not the day you walk 26 miles.
And is there something about that, even if you're not getting the payment, about continuing to make like national insurance contributions so that pensions and things?
Yeah, you do need to be paying your national insurance to qualify for it.
Okay. And outside of government help, I mean, I've seen there's some other charities, so things like Macmillan, have you any experience
there?
There
are Macmillan grants that are available. Not totally sure what the qualifying factors are. You'd need to contact them. There's another charity that offer grants as well, but I have gone completely blank as to what that is. But I think it's in the booklet. But no, there are those options.
So, I mean, the reason you're famous is because of your kind of social media contribution. I thought you liked that. And so back then, I guess there wasn't the kind of social media support and the forums and things. Where do you think the forums have a place to play, and how have you developed that, and where would you like to see them changing going forward?
The forums are amazing. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't find any. I did what everyone did. I found Dr. Google, who was really unsympathetic, and I looked online and I tried to find blogs about people with melanoma, and they all stopped really abruptly, which just terrified me. Eventually, so that was early 2011. Later, at about September 2011, I found on Facebook, I found the Macmillan site and was carefully directed by the magical Marsha through to the Melanoma Mates site, and that was a complete saviour because I'd had the surgery, which I'd gone into feeling a bit kind of blind about it all because there wasn't really enough information, and I had managed just because I was desperate to do anything, to sign myself up for a trial. I signed up to do the Avastin trial, but I didn't know a huge amount about it. The hospital wasn't telling me a huge amount. And then I found Melanoma Mates, and I found other people on the same trial as me, and it was just the most amazing thing, because there were suddenly other people who could talk about the same side effects and who could just talk, go through the whole process. I am a massive believer on the online forums. I like that I'm biased because Melanoma Mates, I'm one of the admins on it. It's been a complete saviour for me. I like that it's a closed group. I don't have any of my family in it. I couldn't imagine anything worse. I like that it's a private space where I can go and have a complete rant when I want. I hope I do a little less of that now. I hope I'm kind of more helpful. But I think they're invaluable. And I mean, there are other forums as well. There are other charities that offer forums, all those things. Like I said, I'm terribly biased because I really like Melanoma Mates.
Yeah, okay. So one of the things that you've alluded to, and I read on your blog, is that you do travel a bit, you go on holidays and stuff. And I suppose travel is one of the things where, because it has insurance, driving, everything else, there's a bit of complexity in that. So, I mean, one of the things we saw this morning, which one of the speakers alluded to, was the thing that people fear most is losing, their ability to drive. So, in that kind of space, has that had any impact on you or anything like that? You've been restricted in any way?
No, the driving is fine at the moment. As I understood it, it was based entirely on whether you have brain mets, which I don't. Having said that, there's someone else on the same treatment as me who posted on the forum the other day that she's had to give up her licence because of a side effect of she's also I'm on encorafenib, binimetinib. If I say that fast enough, it almost comes out right. She's had to give up her licence because she's getting dizzy with it, which I didn't know. I mean, thankfully I'm not, so despite how I sound. But yeah, I think there are issues. I think if you basically are not obviously safe to drive, you do need to report it to the DVLA. It's something for me to think about.
And there is a chance, I think, under some circumstances, that you can get things like mobility cars and things.
Yes, again, all the Motability stuff, I think, can go hand in hand with the PIP payments. And again, it's not something I'm an expert in. I think it can work out quite well, but it's, you sort of sacrifice your benefits to get the advantage of having a car. But you can get, if you're stage 4 and with the full PIP payments and stuff, you can get free road tax. And I think if you're not, you can get discounted road tax. So it's just kind of a useful thing to know, because I discovered quite a lot of this quite late. I think I've lost out an awful lot of money along the way from just not realising things.
And what about car insurance? Is that affected at all? You have to let your insurance company know?
No, I don't. Well, I don't know. I hope not.
Okay, we'll just cut that from the film in case any insurance people. Okay, and what about travel insurance then?
Travel insurance is one of my most hated things. When I first was diagnosed, obviously because it was all looking terribly bleak, and I was determined that my husband and I would go to New York for our 20th anniversary, and it was 6 months after the diagnosis. It was a bit unsure whether I was going to manage it, and I just was completely uninsurable. I remember calling them and sort of explaining the situation, and they were like, "What treatment are you on?" "Oh, well, I'm on a drug trial." "What are the drugs?" "It's a blinded trial." "Oh, have you got any tumours?" "Yes." And where are they? "On your liver." Oh, it was horrible. Anyway, they were disastrous. Being on a blinded trial is really bad for travel insurance. Thankfully, it has changed so much. And when I last tried to book travel insurance, which was only a few weeks ago, I used one of the specialist companies I use Insure with because they seem to know their stuff. I was astonished by the questions. Bar the fact they didn't know my specific treatment, they knew everything else. And to be fair, my treatment was only approved 4 months ago, so I forgive them for not knowing that. They knew all about immunotherapy, they knew all the questions to ask, they go through all the sort of surgeries, they go through all of it. And it's not the nicest thing, because they ask you if you've ever been told you've got less than 6 months to live, and they ask you far too much about your tumours, which seems a bit much for someone you don't know. But it is massively improved, but you do need to use a specialist company.
And I guess related to that, there's medical insurance. I think you already had some kind of medical insurance at the time when you...
I discovered a few years into it, that I was covered by my husband's medical insurance, and it has been a complete saviour for me. And I feel phenomenally guilty because it's given me access to drugs that not everybody has access to. But it is why I do the patient advocacy, because I feel very strongly that people should have access to all that's available. So, yeah.
And has there been any sort of limitations subsequently to that once you were diagnosed that you were aware?
No, the Bupa policy is bizarre. It literally covers me, and there are no limitations. However, I am, other than travel insurance and car insurance, I'm fairly uninsurable for anything else. No one else is going to give me life insurance, or critical health insurance, any of that. It would just, I wouldn't insure me.
Okay. Okay, and I guess finally then, would there be any advice that you would give yourself if you could sort of meet with the person who got diagnosed 8 years ago?
Read the booklet. Read the lovely booklet and find yourself a forum. Find people online who just understand your situation. Come to events like this. Get involved with the Melanoma Patient Network Europe. Educate yourself. Had I not been on the groups, I wouldn't have changed hospital. If I hadn't changed hospital, I wouldn't have got on the treatment I was on. I wouldn't be alive. So, education and read the booklet.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Lucy. That's all from us.